What was it that started you on this as a project? That you thought, oh, this is something that I want to do?
I knew I wanted a project that would consume me. I wanted something that would be so totally mine and me and push me artistically and push me as a human being. It was something I needed as an artist, I needed it as a woman. And this philosophy of the hand, heart, and mind is something that I've had for a long time. It's trying to understand what it is that makes us human and makes us make the connection of you and me. To me, this is a long, abiding study. So as I mentioned, I knew that I couldn't do a project that was just about the human hand because, you know, where's the focus? I would try to be doing everything, I'd be all over the place. So I kept narrowing it and narrowing it. And when I came to the idea of the trades, my grandfather was a tinsmith in the old country. I've known some wonderful tradespeople and the earthiness of it and how essential it is to the heart and soul of our country. It just, when I found it, I couldn't let go of it. And I don't think it'll ever let go of me.
The reason why people won't pay really what something is worth, you know, like handmade jewelry or quilts or anything like that, because they see this work that's so cheap that comes in from the third world countries, and they think, oh, that's what it's supposed to cost.
And of course, the difference, Harold and Isaac, the painters that I photographed over in Kutztown, you watch them work, and it's, first of all, they both have big hands, and they're doing all this very delicate work, and it's rather hard work. And you think about the cane seeds that are pressed in China, and they might look the same. They don't wear the same, but they also don't sit the same because they don't shape to your body the way a real cane does. But you're right, if people don't know the difference, if they don't see the difference between a hand-woven cloth and something that's just thrown out by machine, they can't. You have to touch these things. Again, it's the hand. You have to touch to understand the difference between a handmade item and a machine-made item. You have to get a sense of what is a piece of wood that's been hand polished, burnished and burnished and burnished by hand until it's loved alive, versus something that just has a bunch of varnish sprayed on it. When you touch it, there's a warmth to it. There's a vitality to it. There's life coming out of it. It's so different. And the people, we need to honor those people who are willing to spend the time to do this kind of work, because it isn't really rewarding in other ways. And it's, if we can just increase the awareness of that ability, that would be wonderful. I know it's hard in this day and age because the economy's tight and all that, but we're going to need these skills, and we're going to need this kind of thinking really a lot in the coming years. Jeff Fiant does wonderful work making prize-worthy Windsor chairs. He does beautiful work, just beautiful. I photographed him doing the last set of Windsor chairs that he can do work on full time. He had to take a job as a contractor because people aren't going to pay for the kind of work that he puts into it. So it's hard to get youngsters to take on a skill that our society isn't willing to pay for. Marie Hauk, the weaver that I photographed, I met her when she was under her loom, the way I have the big canvas, and it took her 3 weeks to set up her loom for this one piece of cloth, and weeks after that of weaving to get it done. It was a wonderful piece of cloth that she was doing for herself because she knew nobody would pay for the time that she would have in it. So it's difficult to get youngsters to do it. If we could just get them to maybe do it as hobbies. Quilting seems to be more successful than just about anything in getting young women at least involved. I've known a couple of young men, but not too many who do quilting. And I find that it does, the social aspect of quilting seems to be a very important thing, and I do see some young people doing that.
Could you talk a little about how you photograph and with what, and
Okay.
the process involved?
Are people curious about that? Well, I use a monster camera because I have to love this camera. It's a medium format camera. It's a 645. You're never going to get to use this, and you're never going to want to because it is heavy. But what I do when I'm taking a photograph about a person, it's not about the camera. It's about you and me. This never gets between us. So that's one of the tricks. When you're taking a photograph, can everybody hear me okay? When you take a photograph of another human being, to make the connection with that human being, I'll go into the camera, make sure the composition's good, and then I will look at them over the lens. Hi. Let's talk. Let's be together. Let's share something. One of the reasons I never steal a photograph, I'm not a street photographer. I'm no good at being a street photographer because the first thing I do is I go up and I ask permission. And you're not supposed to do that as a street photographer. But I feel that if you're taking a photograph of another person, it's a collaboration. It isn't just me grabbing your image. It's what are you going to give to me? What am I giving to you? And how can we express that in this photograph so that a third person looking at it can experience that moment with us? Any other questions?
Sally, you were saying that you hope that this continues for the next 10 years or even 10 years. But what do you envision in terms of the transformation project over the 10 years? Have you got that far?
Well, I want to start. Most of these pictures have been in Pennsylvania. I've been very lucky, and that the PCA and the various art councils have been very supportive through the PPA grants and the Lackawanna County grant. So I've been able to do a lot of work here in Pennsylvania. I want to try to hit all the states eventually. Now that's a big, I'm not, in my lifetime I'm not going to do it, but I can aim for it. And I will do, just as I've done Pennsylvania hands, I'm going to do Maine hands and Texas hands. But eventually it's going to be a book. This journal that I showed you is actually just volume 1. And I'll be doing probably 2 of these a year, 1 or 2 a year, depending upon time and how many nights I can stay up all night. But once I get involved in it, I stay up because I love it. I do a newsletter where I'm sharing the stories, and the newsletter is free, so if you sign up, I'll be sure to put you on the list for it. Eventually, I'm going to get too old to keep it going, and I would like it to go on beyond me. That's why I said I would like to take on some young photographers eventually. First, I want to establish it. I want to find out where the funding comes from. I'm not going to bring in kids and then have them disappointed because there's no funding. So, and I also need to establish the routine of how to connect with the museums, how to connect with the schools. So I figure for the next 2 or 3 years, it'll be just me. But eventually, I want to bring in young photographers from around the country and have them work under my auspices. And maybe by getting youngsters doing it, maybe we can get youngsters appreciating it too. That's the big dream. That's the big dream. And yes, eventually it will be a series of books. That's the big dream too. If you don't dream big, you'll never get anywhere. But that doesn't mean you'll have all your dreams come true. But I can try.